of the topic that I wanted to talk today about.
Yeah.
Because there are so many moms, like you said, giving medication to the kids, right? And they don't know why this is happening and what they need. They're just asking which medication is better. So
yeah. So when we take medication, it changes the chemical composition in our brain. But one thing we are not aware that we get addicted to that, after a period of time. So all these street drugs are available as prescription drugs, right? Like a lot of people take that, so they don't really pay attention to what they are putting in the body. Then they want a quick fix, right? And then if we put that in our kids' body, yes, it is going to impact their whole life. They get addicted to substance, right?
Well, we've become a society that believes we're not supposed to ever feel pain, right? So we've determined that pain is bad, which on some levels it can be if pain over time is where it has bad. But we then, especially as parents, because the last thing we want is our kids to feel pain. So if our kid's feeling pain and if we can't solve it, we immediately go to, I can't solve it, there must be something wrong. And so we go to these other strategies to try and remove the pain. And it's tricky because, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's one of those pieces where we start to condition a habit of, if you feel pain, take a pill. Now you're no longer feeling pain. And
instead of finding the source of the pain and eliminating the source, so we just want the quick fix, right? Headache, take a pill.
It's usually energetic, or it's usually hormonal, or it's environmental, or it's nutritional, or there's layers to it. The challenge I have with the medication side, and I'm sure there's certain people out there that might need it at some point in time, or maybe they don't.
It's for me, the biggest thing is refining the food. That's very important. For me, food is like medicine, right? Like it is also changing the chemical composition in our body. So whatever we are putting through all the five senses impact our biochemistry.
And that's, yes, 100%. I mean, it's all chemistry, right?
Yeah. What we hear, what we see, what we feel, what we touch, taste, smell, eat, everything really change the biochemistry of the body, right? So we have this whole idea of these packaged things are good for health, So for example, today I was talking to one person. She was saying that there are so many people now, well-educated people started giving all these formula to the kids instead of giving the breast milk, and they make it okay. That's normal. They make it so normal. So nobody checked the ingredients, what is inside of that and what we are putting in our body, in our kids' body.
Yep. And the big consumer companies, they know that if we can get you addicted, I mean, let's just call it what it is, right? If we can get you addicted to certain elements that are in those foods, well, guess what? When you become a toddler, you're going to also want those foods. And then when you become a young child, you're going to want those foods. And then when you become a young adult, so it's definitely not set up. That formula is not set up for the development of the brain or the proper hormones for that baby to be thriving in a space where they're balanced hormonally. It leads to all other pieces. Yeah, I mean, and it's tough because let's call it the system of things. It's like we've conditioned moms and women to think that, breastfeeding is going to ruin your body. So there's that other side of the conversation too.
Yeah. So then another thing is there are a lot of education going on, educational marketing going on, educational marketing. They are making the people to believe that all those products which are manufactured are better for the body, including the supplements, you can say.
Well, that's the part where my brain just goes, wait, we think that science is going to outperform nature for hundreds of thousands and potentially millions of years. Like science has been around for what? A couple hundred years?
Not even a couple of hundred.
Not even a couple hundred, like 150, 200 maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of interesting pieces that get into that. So yeah, the mother's intuition and that connection, that bond, and the hormones. I mean, we talk about hormones a lot, but the oxytocin that's created on both mother and child through breastfeeding. I mean, it's real, right? Not that I understand it physically, but it's very, very much a real piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, instead of creating that oxytocin naturally in the body, people take pitocin, right? Like for labor, right? Like pitocin is one, like then oxy, like the medication.
Yep.
Same thing, right? It is like a highly addictive thing, right? Then our body loses the natural ability to release that hormones, you know.
And that's, so and it's not releasing it, we label that as depression, right? Or we give it these different labels or diagnoses. And
instead of saying it is the lack of serotonin or lack of oxytocin, we just label that as you said, yes, exactly, like as a depression.
And that's the tricky part with the medication. So let's say here's baseline of like normal. Let's just say this is 0. If you're depressed, let's say you're a -10. Well, people think that if you take the medication, it's going to get you up above the line. And what it really actually does is it brings you to a flat line. And so it doesn't necessarily make you feel good, but it takes away the feeling bad. And that's the hard part, is it actually blocks those other neural connections and those other hormones of feeling good. It doesn't get you up into that good zone. Yeah, it's tough.
That's very true, because my son was telling me that when he was taking on the ADHD medication, he feels kind of foggy and he doesn't really feel great or anything like that. And when when the medication wears off, he feels some kind of like an unknown sadness, some kind of depression he feels. That's what she was talking about.
That is happening because this naturally serotonin is not released in the body, right? Same as like this drug called ecstasy, the street drug called ecstasy.
Yeah.
Ecstasy was used in couple therapy long time back, right? Like, but ecstasy is available as a prescription medication in a different.
It was over the counter.
Yeah, ecstasy is available. Like they are using it for PTSD, like trauma. So many things they are using ecstasy. But what happens is that when this ecstasy wear off, immediately people go into this sadness.
Deplete that serotonin
or depression, you know.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the ADHD side too, right? Because it's so interesting, because when we look at how many people would be potentially labeled ADD or ADHD on the planet,
I know
a lot of human beings. So is it that the person who has ADD or ADHD is the problem, or is it that the environment that they're in is triggering what we label as problems? Because the people that I know that are ADD or ADHD, they are hyper intelligent, and it's that the environment we've put them into doesn't serve their capacity to utilize their intelligence.
Yeah, it's like we don't really teach them how to be mindful or how to concentrate. We don't teach how to concentrate. Like nobody teaches the kids these days, right?
Yeah.
So if they can't concentrate, immediately like they start giving like ADD, ADHD medication.
Well, yeah, that's a whole gauntlet. But I mean, when we look at traditionally, who's usually labeling ADD, ADHD? It's usually when it's in a classroom. Right?
Yeah, like they can't like sit comfortably. They can't really concentrate. They can't focus. Right.
Yeah. So we want them to fall in line. Well, when you look at where the school system was originally founded, at least in the US, and then we look at these kids who have different energy, like we're machines that are built to move, right? And that movement this is actually an interesting little loop. That movement triggers hormones that cause us to feel a certain way. And the more we move, surprise, we feel better. Well, now we have a society that's built on sitting in a classroom, sitting in front of a TV, sitting in front of a computer, sitting in front of video games, sitting in a car, sitting like we don't move.
We don't have like any kind of natural endorphin coming in the body.
No.
So immediately we depend on morphine or like ibuprofen kind of medications.
Yeah,
you know,
but then we say that the kids screwed up. It's not the kids screwed up. It's that we've
Yeah.
put them in a situation, their body's not even producing the hormones. And then we go, oh, your body's not producing the hormones, give you a pill. And then we have this epidemic that's happened as a result of it. So it's really challenging because I do see that it's an institutional challenge. There's a parenting challenge, which is another piece, because we as a society, we've also not done a good job of creating an environment that creates amazing parenting. I mean, you look at the divorce rates in the country.
There is no education, right? There is no proper education for parenting, right? Like
To become
None.
a parent, right?
Yeah.
No, the
to
only
become a parent, like there is no preparation, right? Like there is no preparation to become a better husband or a better wife. Like there is no real preparation. For a lot of people, they just jump into it, right?
Well, and think of it this way too. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but who had really, I mean, if you really think from a percentage basis, what percentage of humans that are alive right now had amazing childhoods where their parents were just amazing and they got to learn from that experience?
I didn't have that.
I didn't have that. Like,
so it's like, so we are the majority. I believe like maybe 80-90% of the people are like that, you know, like, because a lot of people don't know how to manage their own emotion, right? Like if you don't know how to manage your own emotion, you can't like be a great parent, right? Like you can't like.
And then we just didn't learn it when you're a child. So
yeah, we don't learn that
at some point.
The mostly like we are living in a place of fight or flight, or we are living in emotion and reaction, right? That's the loop we are in.
Well, and okay, so we didn't learn it from well, let's just say it this way. We learned probably bad habits or bad patterns from our parents. We probably didn't learn anything good from school with regards to parenting. We probably didn't learn anything good when it came to seeing our friends and their families. Well, then you fast forward, and I would say the majority, very few people actually have children now out of intention, right? Like,
yes,
there's definitely a lot of people that, hey, I wanted to have a baby and they tried. So that's before we get into the pressures of work or the economy or COVID craziness in the last couple of years, or before the pressures of our family members and before the pressures of our friendship. Like we have this pressure cooker that makes parenting and raising kids very, very interesting. I'll just use that word, right? And then that's before we look at the mother and the hormones that happen in her body after she has the child. And like, it's this pressure cooker for chaos, right?
Yes, in my understanding, you have a lot of awareness and you know how to manage your own emotion. And your wife also knows that, right? So then when you had the kids, like you have 3 kids, right?
3, yep.
So when you had the kids, did you have any instance like you were like really challenged to manage your emotion?
Managing emotions, yes. So we were blessed in a couple ways. So the blessing was I experienced so much pain in my childhood. And I see that there's kind of there's 3 different ways. We either repeat the mistakes of our parents.
Yes.
Or we either do the opposite and we rebel completely against our parents. Or like there's a select group that'll go, I need to go on a journey to figure out what is the way that I'm going to do it.
Yes.
Right. And that was very much how we approached it. We had an interesting experience. So I have a 30-year-old stepson. So when I came into the picture, he was 12. So I got to kind of come in at halftime. And my wife and I, before we had babies ourselves, we got to kind of go, hey, do we want to do it the same way? Do we want to do it different? Like we're starting over. And so there was, by the time we had my son, Bodhi, my stepson, Noah, he was 18. So we had 18 years. We already ran the gauntlet and we got to go, oh, what did we like? What would we do different? How would we change it? So yeah, we were blessed in that way. We were also blessed in just the environment of looking at what my parents did. My mom, she just had her 3rd divorce. My dad just had his 4th or 5th divorce, right? So I got to see a lot of things, and it was very extreme because on my dad's side, he was very religious. He was a pastor. My mom's side, she remarried an atheist nudist, right? So I had like
confusion.
what is real, right?
Yeah.
It was bipolar upbringing, right? So yeah, for us, we really went from this place of being really, really intentional before we even got pregnant. So, and again, because my background with personal development, I know, as you guys know, I've been in personal development for 22 years in the coaching space and that arena. So before we even got pregnant with Bodhi, we went down the line of what energy do we want to bring into the space? What home do we want to have? What do we want his experience to be? What do we want our beliefs to be? What do we want, the nutrition that we put in our bodies so he witnesses what we consume? Like, we really were very, very intentional with how we wanted that experience to be. And then when we had the baby, a lot of it blew up because it was, but we had to recalibrate it and really stay in that space. So I was blessed to have a wife that also was very much on board. She really was the catalyst that wanted to go that route.
Yeah, in my case also the same thing, right? Like the baby we have now, like we have like not 2 months old baby, going to be 3 months in a few weeks. So the first challenge I went through was this sleep. Like I used to, both of us used to sleep very well. Then immediately, like this whole sleep thing, like the whole idea, I don't know how true it is. Like the doctors recommend to wake up the baby and feed the baby, right? That was not the practice in India. In India, babies sleep and we just wait until baby wakes up naturally. Then we feed the baby.
Ah, interesting.
So we didn't have like that practice at all, like in India. So here, like they were like recommending, and they were like really scaring. Like if you don't do this, like baby is gonna be like really skinny, like so. We did like the first month. Yeah, we did that, like waking the baby up. Oh, that was the biggest challenge I went through. Like I'm not getting enough sleep. So the second month, like, we didn't really focus on that. Then we allow the baby to sleep until midnight. Then baby wakes up. One time we were breastfeeding, like,
wow.
Second month. Now, yesterday he slept for like 6 hours, like straight. Went.
That's so fun.
And he woke up with a smile, like I was there, like he was smiling, and he was not demanding or crying or anything. No, he was not demanding for food. And he is like a pretty chubby also, like now he's like 6 kilos, like 6 kilos is like
I have no idea what that is in pounds.
Kilos like 2.2, like
okay, so
12, more than 12,
Yeah. It's probably 15 somewhere in there. Yeah, that's awesome.
So he's like a pretty healthy, like as you said, like that food we are putting in our body, that we are not intentional about it, like definitely it is going to impact the baby. And the baby has the same immune system as the mother, because of the breast milk.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting you bring that up, because the way we help our babies sleep, like when you think of, okay, so your baby now is what, 3 months, right?
Yeah, going to be 3 months.
He's freaking adorable too, little Leo, right? So you imagine him at 10 years old. So the patterns of sleeping now and his relationship to food. So it's so funny that you said, the doctors because you're in the US, right? The doctors, you want your baby to be chubby. We don't want him to be skinny. And we look at the United States, wait a minute, what are we conditioning? Like, you want to feed them every hour on the hour. You want to make them chubby. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
So that create this dopamine pathways in the brain, Like then kids, like when they grew up, I mean, they can't stop, right? They want to have
Yeah.
food every hour or every 2 hours or 3 hours, right?
How many moms eat because they're emotional? Like we joke about it, right? Oh,
Yeah.
where's my ice cream? I had a hard day. Or where's my glass of wine? I had a hard day. Where's my
Yeah.
where the cookies? I had a hard day. Like, where did
I
that
had
come
a
from?
rough day at work. I mean, let me have
Yeah.
my beer, like
Yeah.
so many people like really use the food to soothe themselves, right?
And it's because it triggers the hormones and we condition it from, yeah.
We are
You don't want to
creating
be a
like a
chubby baby.
dopamine nation, right? Like addiction. Right? We are creating like this food addiction,
Yep.
We are creating this addiction to cell phones as well as gaming, television. So like a lot of people, they do it because they are bored. They don't have anything. They don't have a purpose, right? Lack of goals or purpose in life. So
I think you just hit the nail on the head right there, right? So parenting with purpose, right?
Yes.
Having an intention, like that, having that purpose in parenting, every decision comes from that, right? Like, well, how do we sleep? How do we eat? What clothes do we wear? Schooling? How do we discipline? How do we communicate? How do we, how do we make love? If we're thinking of how do we treat each other as a husband and wife, like all of it comes from that core purpose of without it, you're at the mercy of the wind.
Yeah, I truly believe that it's all about our lifestyle and kids. We lead the kids being an example, right? Instead of like imposing things on the kids, like we create a healthy lifestyle, we create a happy lifestyle, then kids will follow that, right? Because like they are really in tune with peace and happiness, love. They are like totally in tune with that from the womb itself.
That's our natural state, I believe. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's what we're all trying to get back to that, right?
Playfulness and rest, right? Playful,
Yeah.
restful, playful, restful. That is a cycle like kids go through. But a lot of parents are not aware of it, right? Then they read all these quick fixes from the books or the magazines, like 6 steps or like something like these bullet points they read and they try to impose that on the kids, even if they know that, I mean, it is not right, but they just do that, because the book said so.
Yeah, the book
If
said so, or if I did it that one time and it changed their behavior that one time, not realizing it. Yeah, there's so much magic in those pieces of the purpose in terms of the hormones and being mindful of that, in terms of being intentional. And I mean, really, it comes back to taking responsibility, because I think there's another piece of what you just wove in within that of like, I'm just going to listen to the book, or I'm just going to listen to the doctor, I'm just going to listen to this person. When you take responsibility, I again, the system has not been set up for that. It's give your kids over to the teacher, let them, they're going to be more equipped.
Yeah, again, we can't blame the system because in my opinion, a lot of people are not aware of it. They are the one created the system. Right?
Yeah, we did. And we've allowed it.
Nobody questioned that, right? Like, because they don't know, right? Like, as a lot of parents, they don't have any kind of education or any kind of training. So they don't know anything. They just use whatever is available, right? Like, they don't have like many choices, right?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's why I'm so grateful for the work that you and Shiho are doing, and being able to not only be a testament or an example of what can be done and the effect that it has, but also having strategies and having an environment and a community and having other women who are committed and on the same path, who are going through the same journey, but being able to recognize like, oh, I'm not alone. There's another way. Oh, shoot. I don't have to just go to an institution or a doctor or a therapist or a religion, or like, there's these creative ways to do life and to do parenting different. And it's readily available in your pocket now.
Yeah, it's like a kind of shift, right? A shift means like sometimes these random things we hear from some people, it just really clicks, like for me, when I was growing up, when I was in elementary school, one professor, he's in our neighborhood, he said, like, yeah, if you stay healthy, you don't need to go to a doctor, Then your garden is your pharmacy. You have everything you need in your own garden to stay healthy.
Mhm.
So that one, like I was in elementary school, it stick with me, like when I heard that, it's like really stick with me. Then I was like checking on that, right? What about the food?
What's in my garden?
Yeah, what's in my garden? Like we had like a kind of a big garden. So we had like almost everything in the garden. So that really helped me to stay healthy. So then I didn't really focus on like how to fix my illness. I was like a pro health, like my focus went there. So then the health part is like a squared out. Then every time I go off track, I had times in my life I went off track. I went to college. I was staying with friends. Then I went off track. Then I know that how to come back. So then when I moved to US, I went off track for some times. So then I know how to come back. So that's the health part, right? Then emotional well-being, emotional well-being means I started meditating at a very young age, and then I realized that, look, whoa, it is inside of me, the peace. So then I read like this Buddha's quote, like what you seek outside is inside of you. I didn't understand that in the beginning. And I was like, oh, what we are seeking outside is to fulfill certain feeling, right? Like a happiness we are looking outside, love we are looking outside, peace we are looking outside, like even if we buy things, like we are looking for like a kind of joy from outside, like, so that is inside of us. It took me some time to like really get it, to put it in my body, but so then it evolved, over a period of time, like finding the science behind it. I truly believe in science. I studied engineering. So anything backed up, I want to see like, oh, is this backed up by science, or like somebody is like saying some hoo-ha thing, So
Well, it's the
check
beauty.
on these things.
Thank you for that, though. Because of that, I never believed in happiness before, but that I do feel like happiness and joy. And then other moms are too, like we are working, like they say, oh, I feel happy for no reason. I feel like having fun, like for no reason. And they say, whatever happens, they feel like, oh, it's gonna be all right. That's they actually feel. And so they have this, like, we usually train with them like for a certain amount of times, like days, and they started feeling that, and then that becomes conditioned, then they naturally feel happy. Then the kids really reciprocate really quickly. So.
Yeah. Then depression, right? Like one of the clients, she got out of depression in
in 2 weeks. Yeah,
2 weeks. She got
like,
out.
I don't need that depressing feeling anymore. That's why she just sent me a message yesterday.
That's awesome. I'm excited for the husband, because that's who really gets the benefit.
Yeah. Some of our clients, so like we ask them, like, when was the last time you were down? They say, like, I can't remember.
Yeah, that's what they say.
I can't remember, like, because like they are like all every single day, like they are really working on their body. They are very intentional about.
Well, if you don't feel good, or if you don't feel at all,
yeah,
like you're not going to feel anything towards your spouse. You're not going to feel anything towards anything other than numb, right?
And it is not just saying, right? Like we just like really monitor those things using the wearables, like we check like, what is their, what state they are in. Like I say, I'm in restful state right now. Like it can be measured using the wearables. Like we check the heart rate, we check the sleep quality. So these things, like then then only it is believable, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
No.
we are living in this times right now. Everything is very superficial, right? We instead of being happy, we just want to show how happy we are on the social media, right?
Yeah, because that's
Instead
that
of
dopamine hit of how many likes did I get? How many people clicked on it? How many people
yes,
watched it? And it's not a true happiness. It's like a little intermittent happiness. And so that's
yeah,
why it's tough.
it's like I was living in Hawaii. Then I go and watch the sunset every day. Like one day I was watching the sunset. Then there was this girl. She's sitting in a meditative pose, and she is taking the selfies of that, right, to post it on social media instead of actually being peaceful and enjoying the sunset.
Taking your meditation photo, right?
Yeah. So we are so caught up inside of that, right?
Yeah.
So you look at like how many fake smiles are there on the social media. You can see that, right? Like, natural smile and fake smile are like two different
Well,
things.
they have, I don't know if you've seen this is a whole different can. We might not have time to go into this, but have you seen the new AI so you can be looking off screen and reading,
Yeah.
but the AI will make your eyes look like you're looking at the camera? Have you seen that one? So the technology is going to come out that's going to show that people are happy when they're not, right? It's going to
it's easily measurable now, right? Like there are like so many devices we can really use to see like whether we are at a restful state, where we peaceful state. Then there are so many tests we can take and find out our hormonal levels in our body. Like, are we genuinely happy? So it's like we are disconnecting from actually how we feel to like we are in this in this race to show other people how happy we are, how peaceful we are, how
or am I a good parent?
Grateful we are, instead of genuinely feeling grateful.
Yeah. Hashtag gratitude.
Yeah. So this also like really impact, like when we pretend. So you check with any kind of device, you can see that your heart rate is very high, your stress level is very high. So that pretension create like this cognitive dissonance. I mean, it create like this body-mind disconnect, that create like a lot of stress hormone in the body. Like you're driving on like this stress hormone most of the time, cortisol driven.
Well, I think you've heard the statement, if mama's not happy, nobody's happy.
Yes.
It's like the opposite of that's true too. If mama's happy,
mama, happy baby,
everybody's happy. Right?
Everybody's happy. Yes.
So no, I love the work that you guys are doing and the way that you're able to help transform these relationships with mothers and their children. And it literally is it's not only saving marriages, it's not only saving the health of the mom and the dad, it's saving the next generation.
Yes, it's
how they do it.
That's our like a clear intention, so the reason why we are doing is to create like this next generation who can live very peacefully, very happily and healthy.
Yeah.
So then when we are in that state, so that's what they radiate, right? They radiate that emotion of happiness. So the feeling of health, as well as like that connection, creating that heart connection between parents, as well as between the kid and the mother, kid and the father, kid and the sibling, So then once that heart connection is there and it becomes their nature, so that's what they share with the whole world,
Other people,
right?
Yeah.
So then they make choices like based on that. So, for example, now you look at all these school shootings, right? Like it's all like a result of how agitated the kids are inside, how addicted they are to the fight response. So once we get really, really addicted to that fight response, then we are reacting to everything, right? We are not like at peace. We are not joyful, or we are not feeling connection or love with anyone. immediately we are just reacting with that fight response. So for example, somebody says something, yes, I'm going to kill that person, you know. So it's like the other day I read like one news feed, a 25-year-old shot a girl because her basketball or something rolled into his property. And that was not only the one case, you know, he shot her parents also. Then he had a couple of incidents like this. So it's like a lot of kids are enraged. I mean, they have this anger inside and they don't know how to deal with it, you know.
It goes back to, are they put into a environment, sit down, don't move the energy out,
Yes,
follow
yes.
our orders. And like, that rage is at the end of that experience of, I don't know how to manage my emotions. I don't know how to manage the feelings. Because they don't move and because they don't put the right things in. And so that's a seed that was put in the ground a long time ago, that at the other end of the spectrum, it shows up in a very dark way. It's all of it's preventable, all of it's avoidable.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. And then that, you know, that's why the changings are happening in mom and kids. So yeah, definitely.
So then there are a lot of people believe that like parenting is about controlling the kids. Parenting is like really
Good luck.
really like what do you call it? Disciplining the kids means like, I mean, you need to use the force, you know, you need to really like dominate them. Then only you can raise good kids. Like that's like a kind of old belief, right? Like you can totally raise your kid from like peace and happiness and love.
Yep. I agree 1,000%.
Yeah.
And I think just for the purposes of time, I think it's actually a really good way to close that out, just of like, hey, there's another way. If you think that that's the only way to do it and you're not getting the results you want, there is another way.
It's like heart-centered parenting, right? That is absolutely 100% possible, right? So, or like parenting from a place of peace and happiness, absolutely possible, you know. Or playfulness, you can say.
No, our kids are a science experiment, so we're living proof that it can be done.
All right,
so
guys, thank you so much for today.
Yeah, it's like in my experience, you know, we can become a better human being being a parent.
Yeah,
we can like really become a better human being. Yeah. So you look at these little babies, right? Like even like a violent person sees some kids who are like sleeping. I mean, they are like immediately they change their emotional state. That is so powerful, right? Like being in that peaceful state.
It's innate within us. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, beautiful, you guys. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of golden nuggets from today.